bring the Board of Commissioners meeting to order for February 17th, 2025. Thank everybody for coming today. Let's go right into our invocation and pledge. I've asked Commissioner Thompson to please lead us.
Father God, we come to you this evening. We lift up all things good to you and give you honor for each and everything. Father, we ask that you be with us this evening, Father, as we review the business of Brunswick County, that you would provide us with guidance and insight as we move forward, Father. Father, once again, we want to remember all of those that are in public safety, Father, that are defending and keeping our county safe. We also want to remember those that have fought for and won our freedom and continue to serve, looking at protecting our rights, even to be here this evening, Father. We lift up all those in need, Father, in our county and in other counties and across this great state and nation. We give you the honor and glory for all things. In Christ's name, amen.
Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Commissioner Thompson. All right, we move on to public comments. I only have one name, Ms. Harris.
Your adjustments.
Approval of the agenda.
Oh, goodness, I went right by it, didn't I? Ms. Harris, give me 1 minute. Are there, you can stay there.
Oh.
Are there any adjustments to the agenda? And yes, there is. On the administrative report, number 3, we are going to add action item V as in Victor 1113. Everybody make that adjustment?
I'll move approval with those changes.
Second.
Williams, Sykes, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Thank you. Ms. Harris, you're on.
Marion Harris, 8735 Southern Homestead Trail.
Can you pull the mic down a little bit, please?
Is that better?
Yes, thank you.
I'm here to address your responses to the shade ordinance, the last meeting. This was not about whether animal control can do their job or not, or about your house pets that are inside warm, and I know you love them. It's about the dogs that live outside year round without proper protection from the weather, and about strengthening our ordinances to protect them better. Ordinances create clear boundaries and set expectations. They usually result in fewer nuisance and dog at-large complaints. They offer opportunities for meaningful discussion with pet owners in regards to animal care. Our ordinance that we have now for adequate shelter is 3 sides, a floor, and a roof. It also, our ordinance also says protect from the weather, rain, heat, snow. So I'm going to give you a couple examples and you tell me if you think this is adequate shelter. Dog tied outside in the heat, so it can't go in its doghouse. It's summertime, and I've seen this numerous times, and I've given you a picture. The flies eat their ears to the point where they are blood. They are just raw and blood. Most dogs will desperately dig holes and try and bury themselves in the dirt. They can't go in the houses in the heat. A dog tied outside yesterday. I don't know if anybody had the pleasure of being outside yesterday. 35-mile-an-hour winds, pounding rain. I can guarantee you those barrels and those plastic dog houses, because I do have them for when I put my rescue dogs outside in the afternoons, they get wet. That wind got everybody wet. So all those dogs are wet, whether they have a plastic barrel or a house. How about the dogs this week? It's going down to 20 degrees for almost every night this week. A igloo or a dog house without proper bedding, straw, with any chance of them staying warm, their body heat may raise it 20 degrees, maybe, which means they're in 40-degree weather. Is it adequate? Are they going to die? No. Are they comfortable? Absolutely not. So I also would like to address, at minimum, if their dogs are living permanently outside, suggest a dog with a kennel with a roof, something over their dogs to protect them from the wind and the rain. It's a simple thing to hang a couple tarps. We have hurricanes, we have tropical storms. It's not sufficient for this area. And there was some concern about us being animal, rescues only concerned about animals. I just want to clarify. I'm a former special ed teacher. I also own a local restaurant. I want you to know that I not only donate to the sheriff department, police department, fire department, and to anyone that walks in my business that needs support or a donation. It is not a choice of one or the other. I care about all, but the animals can't speak for themselves. On a positive note, I missed the end of the meeting last time I was here, a discussion about the new animal shelter. I am thankful if you're considering it. It is much needed. And I know that money is an issue. So I'm just suggesting you might want to look into New Hanover does have dog licensing, which brought in $457,000 last year of revenue, which might be helpful to support the new animal shelter, along with helping to all the stray dogs, abandoned dogs that we're finding. We don't know whose they are. So that might also address a lot of those issues. And it would also maybe have funds for the spay and neuter campaign, which is much needed for the feral cats down here. It's just nonstop to get it under control. And then the extra funds, whatever a portion of that could be used for, you're saying the local citizens need help, different projects, the money could be used also for that. So just some suggestions, and I'm hoping that I'm going to continue to work with our sheriff and animal control to try and do fundraisers and gather tarps and hopefully buy some, pallets of straw to provide, and kennels. I'm writing grants as much as I can. So if we move forward with changing these ordinances and strengthening them, we will all work together to provide to people in need. So I just want to, hopefully we can address this at another time. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Harris. That concludes all that signed up for public comments. We will move on to the approval of the consent agenda. Anybody?
Moved, Mr. Chairman.
Cook, Thompson. Any objection, any discussion? If not, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. Moving on. Public hearing. Mr. Attorney, you want to take us into that? Mark is going to do it? Okay.
Good evening. Planning staff brings before you a citizen-initiated proposed text amendment, essentially to allow accessory dwellings on lots that are non-conforming. So currently the UDO, you've got a non-conforming lot. You can have a primary dwelling, no problem, but you cannot have an accessory. This is language that we actually had instructed the consultant, the UDO consultant, to draft into the new UDO. But apparently the applicant did not want to wait for that. So they submitted this, and of course, this is the text that we're preparing for you to strike. Item C, the primary dwelling shall be located on a lot which meets the minimum area requirements of the zoning district. That is the criteria to allow the accessory dwelling. So by eliminating that, we eliminate that requirement. It's important to note that ADUs are not just a detached structure. They can be in many forms. You've got, of course, the detached ADU, the attached, converted garage, a basement, which I understand there's probably not going to be too many of those around here, interior converted garage, and including also an upper floor ADU. It's important to note that these ADUs in recent years have become increasingly more popular. They allow more options for workforce, affordable housing. They can provide additional income, obviously for property owners, and are ideal for multi-generational living arrangements. Planning staff really only gets a few of these requests a year, so we don't expect this to be a tremendous change. Nearly all of the citizen feedback has been positive. I believe we've only gotten one letter in opposition from citizens citing some density concerns. Planning staff recommends approval, as well as the planning board recommended, unanimously recommended approval. Mr. Attorney, would you prefer for me to wait until after citizen input to read the consistency report? Go ahead and do it now. Okay. So to comply with state statutes, I shall now read the consistency report. So the planning staff recommends approval of accessory dwelling unit amendment based upon information provided, national trends with ADUs, and the Blueprint Brunswick 2040 Comprehensive Plan, or CAMA Land Use Plan, and other adopted Brunswick County plans and policies. Planning board recommendation, the planning board recommended approval of the accessory dwelling unit amendment on November 12th of 2024. The consistency and reasonableness determination per NCGS zoning regulations shall be made in accordance with the comprehensive plan. Prior to adopting or rejecting any zoning amendment, including map and text amendments, a statement regarding the plan consistency shall be adopted. The request is consistent with the goals, recommendations, and policies of the following plans adopted by Brunswick County and is reasonable and appropriate based upon the following findings. First finding is supports efforts to increase workforce and affordable housing. And number two, expand housing choices within Brunswick County to respond to changing preferences and increased housing affordability in the county. And then if commissioners have any questions, be happy to answer.
Planning board vote was unanimous. Is that what I read?
Yes, sir.
Anybody else have any questions for Mark?
No, but I know that came up, I think something similar to this came up a number of years ago, and don't know where it went with the commissioners, but I think the idea was that the commission did not want to see a secondary dwelling or accessory property, if you will, to be on the same lot as a primary or without a primary.
Mhm.
But things have changed here. We have a lot of people who have invested in property. They may have a boat. They've got a lot of different things like that. And they like to leave it down here. And so, that allows them to have some type of established area that they can store things. They don't have to haul them back and forth. And, I think it really is a good idea. So my hat's off to you.
I have a question. I'm assuming that any of the plantations or developments within the county that has adopted any covenants,
Right.
this would not supersede a covenant that has been agreed to and signed to by the.
Precisely. Now, of course, it's not going to be on planning to police those
Right.
restrictive covenants, but absolutely, yeah, those would still apply.
Okay.
Anyone else, Pat?
No, I'm good.
Okay, I guess we'll go into the public hearing. Mr. Attorney?
So moved.
Williams,
Second.
Sykes, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Where's my phone? Sicily, I'm gonna say it's Loman. It is an R. I was trying to say, is that an R or an N? Okay,
I'm not writing a lot these days, so
I see.
forgive me, and I have nothing prepared written. I have no issue per se with the content of what was done, but I want you all to be aware of the kind of the disconnect that you are conveying, I think, to the community, which is the planning board over the last year has refused or denied or pushed off the 3 text amendments that the planning department has brought to you regarding the traffic impact analysis, the transportation overlay zone, and there's another one with the T that I'm forgetting. And the planning board has consistently said, I've been at those meetings, We don't want to deal with it. We want to wait till the full UDO is done and it'll be incorporated into those. We want to wait until the full UDO is done, we'll incorporate it into those. And yet one person comes in and says, I don't want to wait. And before long, that we've got the proposal, it's here for you to approve. If that were the case, I guess my question would be, should we ask the planning board individually for each of these text amendments? Is that the way to get them approved these days, that Cecily Lomar goes up and says, I want this traffic impact analysis? It's a disconnect. You're showing no consistency in what is happening in this county. So I think I would like to propose that the commissioners kind of owe it to the community to say, here is the process, and we stick to that process. And planning board, don't get it, as the term is, don't get ahead of your skis and say you're going to approve something, a change in the UDO, a change in the ordinances, because one individual doesn't want to wait. Again, it's not the content that I object to, it's the process that I have a concern with. And that's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anybody have anything to add?
Mr. Chairman, some things are much more complicated and we've hired a consultant to do some of these things. And so that's part of the process to go through that, whereas some other things are very simplistic. And so the simplistic things are much easier. And that's just my take on it. So,
We're still in the public hearing,
Yeah, we are.
Guess we should come out.
or see if anybody else wants to speak.
Would anybody else like to comment on this public hearing?
Commissioner Coble, I don't disagree that there's some more complicated than others, but the reality is the UDO is a legal document. And so once we say it's okay to do it, it's okay for anybody else who meets those requirements to do. And I think they should all be relatively complicated for that reason.
I'm really not supposed to interact regarding
Right.
this, so.
Anybody else like to come up and comment? If not, we will come out of public hearing.
Move to close the public hearing.
Williams, second.
Second.
Cook, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, any discussion?
Yeah, I'll start us off. I think the young lady makes a valid point. Even as a commissioner, you haven't been able to push along some of the UDO changes that need to be made immediately, and get our planning board to accept that and move forward, instead of tabling it and waiting for the UDO to be finished. So yes, I understand exactly where, and I don't think that our speaker today, I don't think she's by herself in this county as far as the residents are concerned that are watching this and viewing this and seeing the same thing that has been voiced here this evening. So I agree. But even as a member of the board, you sometimes cannot change things as the process seems to be in place. And I find that disturbing, and I find that unfortunate for Brunswick County in our current state that we're in. So those are my thoughts on it.
This one seems like a pretty non-controversial, and the fact that people on the planning board who don't normally seem to agree all voted for it tells me it's a non-controversial one, so I can support it, but I'll wait till the rest of the board has spoken before I make a motion.
Well, I agree with you. We have brought text amendments before this board that has been turned down. And I agree, we need to change some of them right away. But we've been unable to do that. And I agree that we're moving forward with a text amendment. So I guess my question is going to be for Mark, is why are we moving forward? I know the planning board has approved it, but is there somebody that's wanting this change immediately? And why?
Yes, and the applicant is here in attendance if you have some questions.
Well, I need to know why, because see, to me, it's not fair. I mean, I'm not against it. I'm for the change,
Right.
but however, we haven't changed anything else, such as the lady has said. So we're moving forward with the change, but we were told by planning, I was told by planning, we weren't going to make any changes until we did the whole UDO as a whole. So here we are bringing this forward, which is not following what we were told.
Well, it's a little bit different because this is a citizen initiated application. We have to process it. We.
So if a citizen, so when do you have a citizen application for other things? Is this, I mean, how do you have a citizen's application and then you don't have it anymore? Is this a one-time, how to have it?
No, I mean, we have had them in the past. It's probably been a few months since we've had a citizen initiated one. But the previous ones that were staff initiated, obviously that started last spring. There's some back and forth. Planning board said, go back to the drawing board, make some changes, go back, make some changes. Last time, any movement on it, they denied it. And then we had Senate Bill 382, which further kind of complicated things. And if we had brought those up while that law was enacted, they would basically be, it's basically a downzoning. It would be in contradiction to Senate Bill 382. So all of the rumors we're hearing at the state is that they may make some changes to that in the General Assembly. We're still waiting on that. So that's kind of another layer of complication with those. This one, again, we got a properly formatted application from a citizen. They own property that want this. Even if it did get approved, that Senate Bill 382 wouldn't apply because you've got a property owner there that wants this. And also it's technically not even a downzoning anyway, because it's allowing another use on a property that previously did not. So I don't know if I'm making any sense to you,
Well,
but
I guess I need to get a copy of that application to know what we can apply for and what we can't apply for. Because if you can apply for changes to the text amendment through this application, then I'm sure some citizens might want to read that application to see what they can change on the text.
absolutely. And we tell that to anybody who comes in who says they don't like a section of the UDO, that is an avenue that they can certainly go down. They can apply for a text amendment, just like they can apply for a map amendment, a rezoning. So that is we don't get them that often. And you're right, not enough citizens know about that, but it is certainly something that they can do.
Commissioner Cook,
I have nothing else to add.
anybody have anything else?
No, other than I have a concern with the process is the biggest thing. And I think what you've shared with me this evening, it kind of, watching some of the clips in the past, almost 100 people being in a planning board meeting. I'm surprised that no one has shared with them that one individual needs to get up and file a text amendment out of that crowd of 100. It just dumbfounds me that that's where we're at.
I think a lot of folks are excited about the new UDO and are waiting that. But, I've met multiple times with many of these groups. We've met with ABC POA,
Sure.
a lot of the other, concerned groups and citizens, and said that is perfectly viable. A lot of them say they want to wait. They're very excited about the new UDO. We had those meetings in the last few weeks that had excellent turnout, and the response was overwhelmingly positive. So, but I can't answer exactly why we're not getting more. I don't know.
Let's go.
Just for clarification to the board, one of the things Mr. Podges was saying was the bill, staff has not brought forward any text amendments which add restrictions based on the bill passed by the legislature. However, this particular text amendment actually removes restrictions. And that's why staff has brought this one forward to commissioners. That's the difference between the two. If a citizen brought up a text amendment that added restrictions, they would be treating that the same. Does that make sense?
The attorney just kind of said what I was about to say to you, Mark. This is actually removing a restriction. But like Ms. Lomar said, I got over 165,000 people in this county. And we have denied text amendments for what, a year and a half now?
Mhm.
And now one person brings this forward and we're ready to make changes. I have a problem with it as well. It seems one person should not be able to change this when hundreds have tried to make changes. And I think I've made it perfectly clear over the last year and a half, I'm not looking to do anything until the consulting company looks over the entire UDO and presents us one new bill. I want to support this because it is removing a restriction, making it more free. But I don't like the process. And it just opens the door for anybody to come in, walking in here and say, I want this, and we're gonna jump to make changes. I got a problem with it and I'm not real happy with it. So that's my take. Anybody want to add anything else before we call for a vote on this? Okay, I will accept a motion to accept or deny.
I will make a motion that we accept the amendment and the related consistency statement. And Mr. Attorney, is there anything else the motion needs to include?
Is there a second?
Second.
I have a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Seems like it's been defeated. All those against?
No.
No.
It has been defeated. Thank you, Mark. All right. Administrative report, utilities. Who's gonna, here we go, John's gonna present.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. We had a request from the Director of H2Go, Utilities Director Bob Walker, to convey a section of water line that's not currently being used. That water line was constructed around 2008 to serve then the town of Leland and their Brunswick Forest development. Since then, H2Go has acquired the lines in Leland. We are no longer serving Brunswick Forest with water. H2Go can make use of that section of the line by disconnecting it from our system and connecting it to their system. It's a section of the line underneath Highway 17, under a pretty deep section or a high section of fill. And so they can get some benefit. We're not benefiting. They've asked us to convey that to them. And so that's what's before you tonight, the conveyance of a 16-inch HDPE water main under Highway 17.
And I have one question. You don't foresee any future use we would have for that, given the way the system is currently structured?
I don't foresee a future use.
I'll make a motion to approve the request.
Okay.
I have a second.
Second.
Williams and Cook.
I think we got
I
the
have a comment.
discussion.
Yeah, I was gonna start this in. Go ahead.
So how many feet is this line?
That's what I was gonna answer.
It is all the way under 17.
You know, I don't know the exact length, but it's all the way under 17. So that right of way is usually 200 to 300 feet. So we're talking about 200 to 300 feet roughly.
And currently it does connect to our system.
It does.
And tell me again why we would want to convey this to H2 to go?
Well, they are no longer taking water from Brunswick County.
Okay.
So-
What happens if they decide to take water again from Brunswick County? They can take it, they can reconnect this line, I guess?
The line could be reconnected in the future if they wanted to do that.
Okay. What are they in the contract agreement for this, what are they paying us for this line?
We don't have a contract, yet. So, that is another question. If you want a remuneration for it, we could look at that. However, back in 2008, the developer constructed the line and deeded it over to the county. So it's not a piece of infrastructure that the county paid for to install.
But we do have ownership of
We do have ownership of it.
it, okay? And tell me again how this enhances their system?
So they've now have their own water treatment plant, which is on the opposite side of Highway 17 from Brunswick Forest. So I think what their intent is to connect that line under Highway 17 to their water transmission system from their plant, and thus serve Brunswick Forest off of their system.
Okay.
And so it provides interconnectivity. They have multiple connections in the Brunswick Forest at this point, but it would provide interconnectivity and additional fire flow for them.
And do we have the capability of providing water by utilizing this line to Brunswick Forest?
We do.
Okay, then why would we want to give it to H2Go?
Well, we no longer convey water to them because we don't have an effective agreement to do so. And so as long as we don't have that, there's no longer any use of the line for us.
And that's assuming that nothing ever happens to H2Go and their capability of providing water.
It would be something that if they wanted to have a connection on the other side of 17, they could certainly we could facilitate a connection on the other side of 17 if there was some reason to do so.
Is this something that was initiated by the county or by H2Go?
No, this was a request from H2Go.
Okay.
John, I have a question or two. You said this was 200 to 300 feet long.
Yeah, that's
Let's
a rough
go with a
estimate.
Midland number, 250, okay? If H2Go is looking to put a water main under 17 into Brunswick Forest, okay? What would that cost them to do?
It would be pretty significant.
Yeah.
Yep.
And we're just gonna give it away with zero compensation?
That's up to you to determine. As far as the amount that the county paid, the county acquired it as from the developer. So it was dedicated to the county.
Question?
But that was because the developer wanted us to maintain it and make sure water was available.
That's
So-
correct.
That's correct. Okay, so this is the first I've heard of it when it was on here, so I'm like the rest, I'm not gonna give it away. So I think this needs to be postponed and brought back to us if they're gonna purchase it. But I don't see where, to me, it would be more of an asset that if they couldn't provide water, if the water, what do you call it? The aquifer that they're using becomes low or dry, the county would be able to supply them water in an emergency situation. Is that correct?
That is correct. However, you could, if you were concerned about that, you could have an interconnection on the opposite side of Highway 17, which would then help them to avoid constructing a line under 17. But your point is well taken.
Go ahead.
The reason that I was willing to make the motion, and it probably would surprise some people, given the history of relationships in that part of the county, is one of the things I have consistently said during the time when we've had fights with H2Go and H2Go and Leland and Belleville were fighting and in court is really all this belongs to the people that we serve. Brunswick County government belongs to the people we serve. H2Go belongs to the people it serves. And right now we own a line we're not using, but we have to maintain it if it's going to stay in usable form. And I'd rather it be used than at the most cost-effective manner than just sit there and them have to go spend money to build a redundant line when we've already got one that's just sitting there. Really, and that's something I think it would be a show of good faith to a group we need to build better relationships with. And if we want to ever heal the wounds up in that part of the county, I think it's incumbent upon us to show some leadership in that arena. So that's why I was willing to make the motion. If we want to table it to let people think on it, I also understand that because it is certainly something that just came up, but that's why I was willing to make the motion.
And I too felt the same way, because the thing is, if we abandon the line, then it's going to take some type of maintenance or something to be able to get it back online again, even though it sounds like it'd be pristine, it won't be. But in past history, we have invested ourselves of certain things like in Charlotte, I know there is a pump house that's next to the Charlotte Middle School, and it was overgrown, and the town contacted me and they were a wholesale customer. And so the thing is, they said, is it possible you guys can do something to landscape it? And we said, well, I looked into it in depth with you guys, and y'all said, well, we don't use it anymore. And really, it's more of a pain to have to maintain it. We can divest it of and give it to them. So that's what we did. We gave it to the town of Charlotte. And so that being said, it's similar to that in so much as it's something that we're not having to maintain. It's not being used. And, sure. I mean, we can say, yeah, you pay for everything that we do, but I agree with Mr. Williams on that point. And that's the reason why I'll do the second on it.
But if people, I can certainly understand if people wanted to sleep on it. I don't see any
have a
reason
problem
we
with that
couldn't
either.
table this if they wanted to.
Yeah, and it's 380 linear feet instead of 200 or 300. It says 380.
You see that?
Yeah,
I was trying.
it's 380.
We need new glasses.
I would like
Thought we
to,
could do
I would
that.
like to, it be brought back. I don't want to vote tonight on it. If, I'd like to think about it a little bit more to know what's best. But that's-
Feel about that.
I'd be willing to withdraw my original motion and make a motion to table it to our next meeting.
Do I have a
Good with that
second?
too. Second, yep.
Williams and Cook, Darrellin? Any other discussion? All those in favor, please
Aye.
signify by saying aye.
I,
Any opposed? We'll bring it back up, John.
Thank
Can
you.
we talk to them about some form of compensation? Just seems like 380 feet of water line, that'd be worth something.
It
I'm not trying to be a bad neighbor, but it's just. it's a lot of
certainly
money.
has value, significant
Yeah.
value. That's why they're asking for it.
Sure, I get their side.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
I'm sure I'll be sending some questions to get some answers.
All right.
All righty, moving on. I was just gonna say, don't run away, John. Okay, succession planning and meter installation backlog reduction. It's a mouthful. God, go ahead, John.
I understand. So when I wrote this up, we had over 1,000 pending, what we call meter drops, where the meter box is there, and we go in and we just install a meter. And so that, that's an excessive time frame. So when I start looking at why do we have such a long time for a pretty simple operation, I started talking with staff, and they discussed some of the issues that they were having in performing that work order. And so we have, a lot of really good contractors in Brunswick County, but we have some that are intent on constructing work just as quickly as they can, and they don't focus on maintaining our infrastructure. And so what's happening when our staff is going out to install a meter, oftentimes what they find is that the meter box is destroyed, it's covered over, it's been damaged in some way. There's a picture behind you. I don't know if it's showing up on your screens, but you can see that picture. And Leanne, you're welcome to flip through them if that's helpful. But it takes a significantly longer time when somebody goes to the box and they find the meter has just been completely destroyed. But regardless of the reason for it, we have to make the repair. And so What I'm recommending is for 3 staff to help facilitate that. Also, to have a reclassification of one of our employees that currently oversees a portion of the group, but they would be responsible for more supervisory responsibility, as well as the equipment and materials to supply those personnel so they can focus on meter installations. So that's one item. And moving on to the second item, we have an expected key staffing transition. I'll call it at the end of the year at the Northwest Water Treatment Plant. And so we're recommending the addition of another deputy director. The reason for a deputy director at this time is several years ago, we had an organizational assessment, and that's what they recommended in that organizational assessment, to have a deputy director over our water operations. We could not do it at that time, but now is a good time to do it as we're looking at a change in staff at the Northwest Water Treatment Plant. That's some critical staff that oversees one of our most critical pieces of infrastructure, the Northwest Water Treatment Plant, at a time when we're adding a lot of responsibility to our operations staff with the advanced treatment. So those are the really kind of 2 separate items. I rolled them together. Any questions on those?
Well, I have one. My concern after seeing those pictures on the construction sites, my concern is, where's the contractor's responsibility? And us hiring people to oversee this, hey, I have a problem with that. To me, the contractor, once that line's put in and those meters are put in a box, they should be responsible. And if they're not, they need to be charged again for our employees going out there. Us hiring new employees, if we need new employees to make them do their job and charge them again, that's a different story. But once it's put in and they destroyed that box and that meter, they should be paying.
Right, that is absolutely accurate. And that's one of the things that what we are trying to do is to ensure that the contractors are charged. Unfortunately, when it goes into the ground and it's deeded and dedicated over to us, we own it. And so we've got to maintain it. And part of the issue is it takes a significant amount of time determining exactly who damaged the meter. But either way, it is owned by Brunswick County, the box and the infrastructure. So when we go out there and it's destroyed, we've got to maintain that. Our goal is for this staff, and one of the tasks that we're going to have with this manager is that when they come upon that situation, they're going to charge that to the property owners in the work order, and they'll focus on installing meters, and that will go back to a different crew to repair.
Well, I have a problem with charging the property owner when the contractor, so why are we taking responsibility before we examine the property? Because really the house should be finished when we take on the responsibility of the water and sewer lines. So, and if they're not finished, then we're going to say, okay, you got to do your due diligence before we finalize the deal. And that is inspecting those meters and boxes to make sure that they're in place when they are finished. I just can't see the property owner, when he takes over and it's damaged, them paying for something they've already paid for one time, because that's in the price of the construction. So I have some issues here.
And if I can address just the timing of when we take ownership, that may clarify some of the issues here, because what happens is your developer, they construct the infrastructure, the water and the wastewater lines. And so those lines end up being certified and deeded and dedicated to the county, oftentimes without the home construction actually starting. And so we own them at that point. And our engineering department, who's responsible for overseeing development, they do go out there and they'll review, and everything may be just exactly as it was drawn out on the plans. And it meets their approval. It's when the home construction starts, and sometimes the entity that actually installs the water and wastewater lines is not the same entity that then owns the lots, because they're sold off oftentimes. And so your home builder, it ends up being the one that then owns the lots. And it's typically during that time when our boxes get destroyed. So we've already accepted the infrastructure is built as per plan, and then they damage it.
But I think most of your homes now are built by the contractor and not by the property owner. The ones that are built by the property owners are usually just one or two here. There are developers that do sell their lots, and most of the time you don't have this issue. To me, this is the issue of a developer not overseeing and protecting the water and sewer lines. That's just my opinion, and I just don't think it, I think they need to be responsible. If they're gonna, the responsibility needs to be there.
I agree 100% with you. It is, whether it's being sold, and I may have confused matters when I use the term property owner. I'm using that term, whether it's the second developer that comes in and buys it as a builder.
Right, that happens
You
too.
know, that may be the property owner and how I'm conveying that. But certainly, yes, it is, whoever is doing the damage is responsible. Typically, that's the home builder at that point in time. And that's our goal, is to make them responsible. And the only way that we have found so far to effectively do that is to charge them and then put those into another stack as far as our work order stack, so that the developers who are doing what's right, and there are a number of developers who do an excellent job in maintaining the infrastructure, so we can focus on putting in the meters so we don't delay those developers and contractors that are doing a good job. Because right now, everybody's getting delayed when we go in there and try to repair the meter box, et cetera, right when we find it.
Well, they get on the back burner. I mean, if they're gonna destroy their meters in their box, they need to be on the back burner. I mean, responsibility. Where are people gonna be accountable? So how many, if to provide the staff at the key water treatments, how many staff are you talking about?
So to address this meter issue, what we're requesting is 3 staff and 1 adjustment in grade to an existing staff member.
And how many for the water plant? The
1.
one, okay.
5 new positions. John, I have a question.
Yes, sir.
So they convey everything over to us. Comes our problem. I get that. Then a builder comes in. They get a crew in, whether it's the developer himself or he sells a lot and another developer comes in, or just an individual. At some point, somebody is responsible. Okay, somebody's got to pay for the damaged box, not us. All right? And correct me if I'm wrong, so educate me a little. Isn't the water meter one of the last things to be done on any home?
Not necessarily. The meter installation itself, may occur early in the process, because oftentimes they want that water for construction purposes.
Yeah, for concrete and whatnot. I understand.
But it is done during the home building process typically, where the meter box is installed well before the home construction starts.
I'm familiar. But it's near the end that we actually go and put the meter in the box.
It didn't used to be that way. It may be that way now because we're behind on our meter installations due to this issue. But it used to be that when somebody went and paid their fees and got a building permit, we were a couple weeks out dropping the meter into the box, and that way they would have water for construction.
They're obviously running over it with a bulldozer or a backhoe or something. I get it. they're plastic boxes. They're gonna crush. But can we withhold a CO until we get compensated?
Well, I think that's a question for legal, but I don't think we would be able to issue a CO if the box is crushed and they don't have water. They're gonna,
Yeah,
our
but if
code
they get-
enforcement are gonna
no.
ensure they're gonna have water and sewer available.
I get it, but my point was, we bill them for a new box.
Yes,
Okay, so Bob the builder, you're gonna send him an invoice. You owe me $1,000 to replace this box. If he doesn't pay it before closing, can we keep him from getting his CO?
He doesn't get a box. He
yes.
doesn't get the box until he pays the money, is my understanding.
Right, we're not
Oh, he
gonna,
doesn't get the
we're not gonna
box
do
at
the
all.
work until that's moving forward. That's what we want to do is we're gonna issue another work order to make the repair of the box. And so until they come in and pay for that, we're not gonna repair that box. And so consequently, they're not gonna have water. They're not gonna be able to get a CO.
Mr. Chairman, if I could add here, maybe to clarify this a bit. This is, we want to hold whoever damages our property financially accountable. But because of the frequency that this has been occurring, Public Utilities really doesn't have sufficient field staff to provide good customer service to all of our customers. So the attempt here is we do want to hold people accountable, but we need more bodies in the field and support to be able to provide timely customer service. And that's really what this is about, improving customer service for our customers.
I totally understand that. My point is the crew supervisor and the two mechanics, I'm looking at what, $131,000 for these three positions. Forgetting the one at the wastewater treatment plant, that means nothing, okay? How, now, and this is a recurring fund. We haven't added in the benefit package and everything else to this. Okay, so this 130,000 is close, it's probably $250,000 for these three positions. Are we making money? Are we overcharging them for the new box? Who's gonna pay for these three people? Us?
So when
Because
we
they keep
charge
crushing
them-
boxes?
When we charge them to reinstall the box, then that's where we
Is
will
there enough
recoup that.
money in that to pay for these positions?
I can't say I have done a detailed analysis, but I would suspect that there would be based on the number of boxes that we're having to repair and the fact that we're getting so far behind on these.
Anybody else? Questions? Randy, right?
I do. Well, number one, okay. You put it in there. I mean, we can go round and round this thing, but you put the box in. Somebody wrecks it. Okay. I'm not an engineer, but my thinking is that the water is not going to work if you crush the meter.
That's correct.
Who's the one that owns the house?
You know, it
I
can,
don't care who owns the house. Who owns the house at the time pays for the thing to do it. Because the thing is, we put it in there to begin with and they crush it. That's on them. And then they want us to come back out there so they can get a CO. Guess what? They're going to have to pay for it, plus whatever it costs us to do it in our time. I don't see how in the world I have to sit here and babysit a daggum box to see if they did it or not. My point is, we put it in. If you're going to let it get crushed, property owner, contractor, developer, whatever it is, that's on you. You're not getting a CO unless that water works. And we're going to have to either delay you from getting your CO, or you're going to have to pay a lot more. And you know, I have to tell you, forgive me, we don't typically do this, or maybe we should in some regards. We ought to fine them. I rented a house because I had to go to a wedding. I had to do an Airbnb. So I had to bring my family and extended family, everybody for this wedding, right? They had a thing on there, you would be fined $150 if you don't have your trash in a plastic bag in the garbage can. I was going to be charged $150 for that. Well, I would think if we put a little bit of an incentive, if you would, for destroying our box that's out there, then that's on them. And you know
Mhm.
what? They sure wouldn't touch it. Because I know that. I mean, if they got fined, I don't know what they get fined, but let's say there was a fine of a certain amount of money, they'd say, don't touch that box. Whatever you do, don't touch that box. But they're crushing with impunity based on what you're telling me. And that being said, it's on us to go out there and fix it and everything else. And what do they? Crush it again. And we have to hire somebody to do this, and we don't get anything back. It's taxpayer money. So my whole point is, no, it's on them. And the second thing is, you want that CO because you're sitting there patting your foot and tapping your heel and whatever it is because you're selling the house or whatever it is, that's on you because you let it get crushed. And you're not getting a CO until we get it fixed. And not only that, we have to come back again. It's going to cost you. Now, that's my take. I may be wrong.
No.
But that's my take on it. It doesn't make any
And-
difference.
and if it's not-
It's not
if
going to work.
And if it's a development under construction and nobody's living there, then they'll just have to wait till we get to it. I mean, they destroyed it. I mean, but now I am for the person at the water treatment plant. I definitely support that because I know that we need additional staff there and we have people that are close to retirement. So I don't have a
No,
problem
I
with
don't have a
that.
problem with that position at all.
And I don't know
have a
if you
problem with
wanna-
These positions, if we're gonna generate enough income from doing this
And
to
I don't
pay for
either.
them.
If you find them or you do something like that, we get enough return on investment, I don't really have an issue with it, but if we don't have return on investment, then I
Yeah.
do have a big issue.
Currently, what is your collection rate on these damaged boxes from?
Yeah, I don't have that information available handy with me right now. I can tell you that one of the things that we want to do, and
Mhm.
I want to do a better job of, because I suspect that the staff that's going out there, oftentimes, they're getting pushed to get the work done and to reduce the backlog.
So they're working on getting the work done, working on completing it, making it to where it works, and we're not billing for it in some cases.
In some cases, I would expect that's happening, and that's one of the reasons why I want to do what I'm recommending is to divide some responsibility and ensure that the staff that we have installing the meters is clear on what they should do with the work order to create another work order for the repair that's separate, and don't do that until we get paid for it.
Once again, I view this as us going above and beyond for the developer. It's, I mean, the county is paying for the developer to be successful in this county. And it's amazing to me. So my next question is to the manager. Is the manager, making the recommendation for all of these positions in this?
I do recommend the crew. I think hearing the discussion and conferring with our finance officer, we probably need to actually add a new fee to our schedule to cover this specific situation, because the current fees aren't an exact fit for what we're doing here. But as I said, I think we really need the manpower in the field, but we also need probably a separate fee to make it clear that a party that is not the county utilities are going to actually be bearing the cost of this
Can you
work.
bring that back to us at our next meeting?
Yes, sir.
How about these positions and the fee come back at the next meeting? And we just approved the key water treatment person.
That would be a form of a motion to the chair.
I make a motion.
Wait, is there any more discussion before we go to that?
Just, I'll ask John, do you think it would adversely impact you if we did the motion as suggested and approve that one and delay the rest till our next meeting?
We will certainly do whatever the board recommends, but it puts us behind further. We're trying to catch up. That's the only issue. And I want to reiterate that a lot of our contractors take care to not damage the infrastructure.
Right.
But what's happening right now is that the delays happen to everybody, whether they're protecting or not, until we get some additional staff to address this issue.
Choose my words a little bit. I don't want to back you up, because if we put this off till the next meeting, hiring these 3 people, it backs him up that much more, and we're giving away more free boxes in the meantime because we haven't done anything. So I don't, it's kind of a catch-22.
Yeah, I don't like either option,
Yeah.
really.
It is, it's a catch-22. But I don't want to continue putting free boxes in for developers.
We've got a fee, and so while no doubt we can look and see if it's appropriate, we have fees that we can charge them now. But, I can certainly get that, to the board at the next meeting and have it ready. But what we've typically done has been charging them the fees that we currently have. Typically, it's a new box, et cetera. And so we've got some fees that cover those costs generally.
Before we make a motion, can I point something out? Our next meeting is a month out.
That's true.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, we can make a fee recommendation right now, if you'd like one.
Let's hear it.
$2,000.
Good. Does that cover costs and a few bucks to pay for these new employees?
We believe it would.
Everybody got that?
Yeah.
Yeah, question?
Sure.
In your evaluation of your employees and your supervisor, I assume that you look at whatever they're tasked with. In other words, if they go out and this crew or this supervisor supervises 100-meter installations, what metric do you have that ensures that they were properly charged for that process? Whenever you evaluate that employee at the end of the year or the beginning of the year, either way you want to look at it.
So
Do you have a metric in place as an evaluation tool? If this is their assignment and it's obvious that garnering the funds to cover their work environment, especially in your situation with the enterprise fund, is there metrics in place for that?
yeah, I think we could create one. We don't necessarily have one in place today because we would have to create this. We have a work order software program called Lucidity, and we would have to create one which would be associated with this new fee. It would be meter box, rework, or something like that. And so, we can run that and see how many of those that we have at any given point in time.
Don't you think if that was my job to do and I'm coming up for my evaluation, don't you think it would be fair that I had some type of mechanism that I understood that I'm going to get evaluated on for my merit? Or are we just doing merits across the board for whoever we choose to?
No,
I mean, I want to make sure that your department has merits and that they're being utilized in some type of metrics for the performance of their duties, to make sure that we're getting the right performance back.
Yeah, absolutely. I fully agree. And one of the metrics we currently use and we evaluate each employee on is the number of meter installations. And so as we were evaluating those, that's when a lot of this feedback kept coming back. They weren't hitting their targets. And so that's one of the things that helped us to determine what the issue was and to drill down on that.
Yeah.
And so, yes, we would have to add that. It would be a different group, but the group that is dropping meters, installing meters, I would expect those metrics to come up if they no longer have to, repair the broken meter box at that point in time. But then we would have another group, that would have another set of metrics that we would look at. But we routinely use KPIs to evaluate our staff.
Okay. The only thing that I would ask in addition is for staff to come back, for leadership to come back with a report say 3 months from now, a quarterly report that indicates how this particular program is doing and how many fees have been charged and how many fees have been collected for the work that's been performed.
And if there's a way to incorporate that into the dashboard that Megan's department's putting together is what I was thinking. And I had literally just written the word metrics down when you started talking about metrics. And obviously government's not a business, but I just read a business book, and it says that every single person needs to have one number or more that they're accountable for, and they know what their number is and what they're held to. And I think that's sort of where you're going with that. And, you know, I've been given feedback by my employees, I can't hit the goal if I don't know what it is.
And once a new work order is set up for this process, the collection rate will be near or at 100% because we won't do the work until we've been paid.
I think I'd be interested in knowing how many of these broken ones we have to fix every month, because that, if it's way more than it should be, maybe there's somebody we need to go educate on how not to break them.
Cost of that.
I'm gonna
Yeah.
guess it's subcontractors that are
Mhm.
Yeah.
grading and backhoes going. All right,
And I'll just say, I've had a lot of discussions with contractors about this particular issue when they call me asking why their meters are not installed. And a lot of them have made the adjustments and coordinate with our staff very well. And I've also been in touch with some of the local organizations that represent the home builders, so they're aware of the issue as well.
John, before I ask for a motion, when you put a meter box in, it's being conveyed to us, you don't actually put them in. Did I stick like an orange flag there, a red flag, a green flag, and say, don't run this over?
You know, they're obvious. They shouldn't be running
No, no,
them
they shouldn't.
over.
I know exactly where mine are on my properties. So, all right,
We've had a lot of back and
Yeah.
forth here, I guess. What motion do we want to?
well,
Mr. Chairman, you still have an outstanding motion made by Commissioner Sykes.
was that a while ago?
Yeah, well, I didn't have a second though, that I know of, so it's not a
We
good.
kind of got off on a rabbit trail before that.
Yeah,
happened.
Did we?
that was not a.
So the motion failed for lack of a
Yeah,
second.
yeah.
There you go.
Okay.
All right. So I guess the new motion would be to add these positions,
Mhm.
right? Which is
Right.
2, 3, plus the one at the water treatment plant, 4 new positions. And to charge $2,000 for the broken boxes that need to be replaced. Am I missing something? Okay, who wants to make that motion?
Just for clarification, who actually pays that 2,000? Is it the subcontractor who breaks it? Is that who we had? There's been so many moving parts. I want to make sure I understand what I'm voting on.
I think it would be whoever owned the property
Property.
at the time.
Whoever's gonna get the.
Okay.
I think the fee would have to be collected from whoever's making the application to have the repair take place. So
So the fees
Right.
associated with the repair then, okay, that,
they'd have to
so
come.
it's
in
almost,
with the
it's almost a
application,
repair fee.
repair and collect
Okay,
the
that
fee at
makes,
the time.
Okay. I agree with the county attorney.
Yeah,
Me too.
Yeah.
Okay, I need a motion.
I'll make the motion.
Commissioner Sykes, I need a second.
Second. Third.
Darrell, pick one, Thompson or Cook. All right, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Long discussion, but it passed, John.
Thank you.
It was a very good discussion. Thank you.
Well done.
Thanks,
team.
John.
the new number.
Yeah, I'm pulling it out so I can get to it. Okay. We added on to this administrative report, action item V1113. Mr. Manager, would you like to explain? Or is Ms. Hewitt coming up?
I
to-
believe Ms. Hewitt will come explain it to you, but essentially, we had an item that was being prepared for next month's agenda, and we were notified by the vendor because there's a $100,000 piece of technology that we believe will be subject to a 25% tariff before your next meeting to save the county $25,000 plus or minus, that we would ask you to consider it tonight instead.
Hi, Ms. Hewitt.
Hello, good evening. So as Mr. Stone just said, we learned about this on Friday afternoon, and basically this is our compute, storage, and virtualization environment upgrade. We released an RFP a few months back, and I have gone through the selection process and decided on a vendor. That vendor, as listed in your notes, is Tego Data Systems. They checked all the boxes, and the cost that they provided us was the lowest cost provided from any of the 5 vendors who submitted their proposals. And so in working back and forth with our legal department and Tego and getting the goods and services agreement in place, our original plan was to bring this to you at the March 17th meeting. I had a conversation with legal on, I think it was Thursday, and said, in order to take it to the commissioners in March, we need to have the quote extended through March so that it doesn't come to you expired, which the quote is dated February 28th, 2025. So reached out to the vendor and said, we'd like to have the quote extended. What came back from them was we just need to work with our vendors to make that happen for you. We received a call from them on Friday that said, basically, there was one vendor that they had run into a snag with, and that was Lenovo, and they are on schedule to provide the 6 servers involved with this project. The issue came into play with the servers being developed in China and assembled in Mexico. And so if we go into March with this project extended to that period, then we are subject to a 25% tariff increase, as Mr. Stone said. So apologies for the last minute addition to the agenda, but really felt that it was important to bring it forward to you for your consideration.
And it's ARPA funded, any recurring expenditures beyond the first year?
So and I have Andy Byron with me as well. And so the agreement that we have in place is a 5-year agreement. So we would not incur any additional cost until year 6.
Okay.
And at that point, we may be looking for an upgrade or replacement,
5,
but
yeah.
exactly.
5 years is always
Exactly.
changes.
That's right.
Yeah.
All right, do I have a motion?
I'll move approval.
Second,
Williams, Sykes,
Yeah,
any
one
discussion?
thing.
yes, sir.
Any concern about a technology system coming from China?
Well, we pretty much are a Lenovo shop as
Yes.
it stands.
Okay.
And so we've had a very good track record with them. Where the issue came into play is with the new tariffs that we'll be dealing with.
Sure.
So we might have to look into that a little bit further, as we move forward with equipment.
Anybody else?
I think this came from China.
How's that
Let's
working
do
for you?
this.
And this,
Yeah.
and yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
All right, no other discussion?
Mhm.
All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Passed.
Thank you
Thank
very
you, Ms.
much.
Sheila.
Have a good evening.
All right, you're up to the appointments. We have 2, sorry, I need my glass. All right. We have the Shallow Planning Board ETJ position. At the request of the Town of Shallow Board of Aldermen, consider the approval of the Shallow ETJ appointment of Amanda Dunn. This was tabled from 2 weeks ago because we needed more information, and we did not have her application. We had very little. So we put it off. Everything has been satisfied. So if you guys don't mind, it's my district. I'll make the motion to approve Ms. Dunn.
Second.
Forte, Cook. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes. Another one, hold on. Board appointment to the JCPC. For those, that's the Juvenile Crime Prevention Committee. Request the board consider one of the applicants attached up here. Does anybody have a name that they would like to put forth? Darrell, and we have applications for all of these people, right?
Yes, sir, they were in your packet.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I have a name.
Okay,
Rachel Saunders has distinguished herself in so much as she has served not only on JCPC in Pamlico County, but she's been a court counselor in New Hanover for at least 3 years, as well as she's now in Brunswick, and she's over in the courthouse. I've looked at the applicants. We've got a lot of really good applicants in there, and it's hard to really pick it. But the thing is, Ms. Saunders seems to be the person that is just the right fit for this, at least from my perspective. And it's not to say there's not some other ones that are good, but I think she's the best of the ones that would be ideally suited for this. So I'd like to bring forth Ms. Saunders as being the nominee for that.
I'll second that. She was one of two that I had narrowed it down to. The other was Greg Spradlin. He's got law enforcement background. I do not know either of them personally, but based on what Commissioner Cook said, I'm fine with Ms. Saunders.
Okay. Cook, Williams, motions, Carolyn,
Yes, sir.
all those in favor? Well, any discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Ms. Saunders is on. Is there any other business or informal discussion to bring before the board tonight?
I've got one small one. Something for administration, if you can look into a couple of these items. I understand that over 60% and sometimes almost 70% of the fire department's calls right now are EMS related. I understand that the fire departments, especially the rural departments in our county, are responding to lifted assistance when that type of call comes in and EMS is not responding. You know, I realize that our fire departments get paid on a fire fee system. But I know that other counties around the state, Rowan County, for example, are paying fire departments for EMS calls, especially whenever you've got lifting assistance calls that fire department's having to respond to, and then they're having to do an assessment to see if EMS is actually needed. Because I'm assuming lifting assistance to me means that somebody has fallen. I realize that there's probably a good 911 operators and they're probably getting technical information to determine that over the phone. But for our fire departments to be called out on that type of incident, especially whenever we've got a lot of times fire departments, our rural fire departments, on average, almost 20%, some of our departments get simultaneous calls. In other words, whenever they get called out for this lifting assistance call, then they're getting another fire call and having to deal with the manpower issues that they're dealing with. So I would ask that you look into this EMS response that our fire service representatives, especially our rural departments, are responding to at no additional cost and a savings to the county. I also am aware that a lot of our fire departments have to go before an oversight committee, not only for taxpayer dollars, but for grants. Whenever they get grants from the insurance department or whether they go out and get other grants for capital needs, they're still being made to go back before the oversight committee before they can spend those dollars that are really not related to county tax dollars. I would really like for us to look at that and see if there's actually a need for that. And we're talking about a $10,000 expenditure. You know, that's whenever you getting a multiple grants from the state or from Woodsman of the World or anyone like that, they have to go back before another oversight committee that may or may not approve it. And you've gotten these grants from departments that are from agencies that are not related to county government. So I would like to see us look at that. I would also like an update at some point in time on the community paramedic program. I understand we've had a huge investment into that, but I understand we only have one community paramedic that's out there. So could we get an update on where that program is in the coming meetings? Also, this particular time we had our own event at PCT 8 that impacted the county. That was a recognized federal funded event that happened for Brunswick County. In the past, our volunteer fire departments have been notified by the county and assisted by the county in determining what their losses were or what they had to pay for manpower under the public safety aspect of providing services. Because most of our volunteer departments now have career personnel, which they're having to pay for extra overtime, which is an allowable expense under the reimbursement program through at the federal level. I would like for us to, if we, it's my understanding that we did not approach the fire departments this time. We did not assist them in cost recovery and identifying and helping them through their paperwork process as we have done in years in the past. I would like for us to go out, do the assessment now, determine what those losses were for those departments, and come back to the county with a figure for each and every department. Still not knowing if we can acquire federal assistance at this point, federal or state assistance at this point in time for that particular disaster. But I think we need to know what the impact was on our local fire departments that they spent during that emergency. And lastly, I know that we need to address the funding for our fire departments. And I know that's something that's been discussed. I just haven't seen a timeline or a matrix, so we can go back to the matrix again, that determines what we're going to do, when we're going to do it. Well, we're in a budget process now. And so I would like to see some forward movement on what we're planning on doing with our fire service. In saying that, I know that we have a fire administrator, and I'm concerned. I would like, and certainly offer the information to the other commissioners. I'd like to know exactly how many classes and conferences and training classes our fire administrator has either attended or taught since January 1, 2024 till today. I'm trying to figure out the usefulness of that position as we move forward in the budget process. I'm sure that there will be others. And then lastly, because of the presentation during our budget process by EMS, I would also like to see an organizational chart for EMS to determine about why they're taking all these additional rescue classes when they're supposed to be focused on providing emergency medical response and treatment. And I'm just concerned that we're transitioning into a rescue type organization when we are subject under the current tax plan and current program to provide medical services and not rescue services. And so I'm interested in seeing the org chart, which again, everything that I have asked for, I certainly want you to share it with everyone on the board.
We can provide all that. And I think the paramedicine presentation's already planned for the next meeting prior to you having spoken.
Cool. Thank you.
Just one piggyback on that. Going back to the oversight committee having to review fire department grants that come from non-governmental sources. I think that's a point well taken with a caveat. If they're using that grant money to obligate themselves to something that's going to require taxpayer dollars the next year, we would need to know about that because that's a different animal than if it's just a one-time grant expense that's never going to affect government fire fee money.
Good point.
I believe the intent of going way back when was to ensure good coordination of services throughout the system, not just in individual departments. And that's why it was originally targeted to all funding sources, but certainly is a matter that can be reviewed, and the answer might be different today than it was 20 years ago.
And I heard someone once say that nothing lives longer than a temporary government program, so it might be worth seeing if it's actually meeting that intended purpose too.
Marty?
Mr. Chair, about a week ago, I think it was Tuesday, the 11th, I had a conversation with County Manager Steve Stone about the aspect of lift assist. It's not part of the contract associated with the fire departments because it's not part of public safety, such as motor vehicle accidents or fire suppression, that sort of thing. But that being said, some departments, at least one department I know of, has served about 175 lift assists in the past year. And that being said, it's a lot of equipment, it's a lot of manpower, it's a lot of being offline, it's a lot of things for them, and I think they do need a compensation perspective that would at least help them with that aspect of their help to the public. So it's not something that's falling on deaf ears. I think it's something that I think you've already been looking into it.
We're looking into it, and I can't confirm or deny the percentage that you've been told. I will tell you that usually the lift assist aren't that people have fallen. They're individuals that have chronic conditions and they need somebody to help them get, say, from a bed into a wheelchair or a wheelchair into a vehicle or something like that.
Or second floor to a first floor.
Yeah, it's
I-
often a repetitive situation, sometimes daily.
And I'll just, I don't know, I want to make sure that you receive that. I understand Rowan County is doing something for the fire service.
And
for
I made
that.
note of that, sir.
Pat?
No, I'm fine.
Mr. Chairman,
Okay.
I will say that regarding the $10,000 expenditures, fire contracts themselves for them to receive the fire fees do apply just to fire fees for the $10,000 expenditure, but the legislation enabling fire fees states that they are to bring any purchase in excess of $10,000 for approval, and then does go on to say all departments that receive funding from fees shall participate in the strategic planning commissions. And if they don't come before it, then the money gets withheld from the fire fees.
So so it needs to be a legislative change, is what you're telling me,
I think so.
to
yes, sir.
change it. We cannot make that decision here because of the law.
That's my interpretation.
Okay, thank you.
Any other discussion? Administration, you got yours?
Yes, sir.
Somebody want to make a motion and say, let's go home because Leanne's falling asleep?
Let's go home.
I'll second Marty's poorly worded motion.
Williams, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned.